Well, good morning, everyone. Thomas Montgomery. It is a beautiful Monday morning, 10/10/2022. So it is October 10th, 2022. And we get together with our distribution partners most weekdays at this time to discuss strategies, tips, techniques, share success stories. Today, we're going to dig into something that I think is very important. Those of you that have been with us for a while, this may be somewhat redundant. But those of you that are newer, I think it's very important that you understand. So let's step back and look at the big picture first, and then we'll dig in. You and I work together as technical advisors. That's the term. And what we do are three things to help small businesses. Number one, we help them improve their financial literacy. Number two, we help them create a lender-compliant loan package. And number three is we help them become credible enough so they can receive funding. Let's break each of those down a bit. Financial literacy. I truly do. I realize that most small business owners that will come to you, that'll come to us, often don't care about financial literacy. But they just want the outcome. They just want the funding. So I realize that, but it's important that we at least make the financial literacy available, because an educated client is a better client. Secondly, it helps them understand the why of what we're trying to do. And third is often they don't know what they don't know, and they just think that I just should get funding without understanding the bigger picture. So financial literacy is one of the three. Excuse me. The second element that I mentioned is that we help build lender compliant loan packages. And what does that mean? Well, for a loan package, it normally would have a business plan and financial projections and different support documents. And again, I do realize that the typical entrepreneur that's seeking capital, excuse me, doesn't care about that. They just want the funding, right? They don't care about the financial literacy in many cases. They don't care about a loan package. They just want the funding. But what they don't realize is what you and I know is we have to qualify for the funding. And to do that, depending upon the source of capital, we often need a loan package. And so that's an important element to get where they want to be. But I do realize that it's often not something that they care about. And then the third and final element of what we do is helping clients become credible enough on paper to get funded. Because again, it's too good to be true for them to think, oh, I signed up, just give me my $10 million. I just want my fucking $10 million. Well, if you don't have the qualifications to get approved for the 10 million, then we're going to need to either build your qualifications to get there or lower the initial ask amount. So with that being said, a very important part of what we do is taking clients through a 4-week curriculum. And so this hasn't changed, but I want to spend a little bit of time going through it. So I emailed each of you this morning the revised small business certification syllabus. Let me be clear. This is not something new, and this is not something you go out and sell. This is free. It's an embedded part of access to capital. So don't be confused that this is somehow some pivot. It's instead just peeling back the layers so you have a more in-depth knowledge of what we do and how we accomplish what we do accomplish. So with the syllabus, on the left-hand side, there's going to be instructor information. If you're the one that's actually working with the client, then your information would be here, not mine. If you're going to be the instructor, then it's going to be your qualifications, not mine. If you're going to be the instructor, in other words, what we often call the mentor, then it's not going to have our email, it's going to have your email. And if you're going to be the one that's going to take them through this 4-week curriculum, it's not going to be our phone number, it's going to be your phone number. Of course, you see the point. But in the case for those clients that we're going to do the mentoring on, then they're going to get a syllabus sheet that looks like this. And it'll also clarify, hey, we're going to have weekly calls, and the calls you receive are going to come from this number. So the instructor information, so I sent this to you, each of you this morning in both a PDF and a Word version. The Word version you can edit with your information if you plan on doing the teaching. All right, but separate from the instructor information, which is not our focus today, I want to focus on the content. So we begin by describing what this is. This is a free resource. We're not charging for this. It's valuable, but there's no charge. We provide a free resource for clients that are enrolled in the Access to Capital program. We call it the Small Business Certification. Again, it's free, a grant-subsidized resource that helps entrepreneurs position their businesses to look credible on paper to access funding. So it fits very nicely in with what we just talked about. There's three things that you and I do. We help build their financial literacy, we help them build a lender compliant loan package, and we help them become credible enough to qualify for funding. This was previously taught as a credit earning course at a college. The 4-week curriculum features a weekly topic using an award-winning curriculum developed by the FDIC and promoted by the SBA. So this is very, very credible. I don't think anyone could offer an argument, a legitimate argument, a logical argument that this curriculum is not needed, it's not valuable. It's very strong. There's participant guides and instructor guides. It's award-winning. I mean, there's just no question this is valuable. Now, again, I understand that the typical client that comes to you and I, they don't want a 4-week curriculum. That's not what they want. They just want funding. But what do we have to do before we get funding, other than the first tranche, which can happen without doing any of this? But to get to the ultimate funding, we need to figure out what's the right source or sources of capital based upon the client's mitigating circumstances. And we have to prepare the client to meet the underwriting criteria. Well, to do that, we need to gather information from the client to understand where they're at, to see where we should go and are they ready to go there yet. And so that's really what's happening here in the small business certification. It is not merely some educational course that most people don't care about. Instead, we teach and apply. We teach and apply. So it means each week there's a topic, and then we apply that topic to the client's business. Now, you might say, oh my goodness, 4 weeks, that's a long time. Can it be moved along quicker? It can be. It can be. Could we get clients together and do a workshop, you and I, and complete this in one day? We can, and we've done that with many of you, and we've continued to offer that. So if that's something that you're interested in, we can have a one-day event where we knock this out. But regardless of that, normally, normally what's going to happen is you're going to enroll the client as a white label partner in the Access to Capital program, and we'll take them through this. Now, if you want to be the one that does it, you can. It doesn't cost you more, or you don't make more or less if we do it. Our preference is to do it because this is our background and our skill set. But if you prefer to teach it, you can. So let's move along here. So in addition to building financial literacy, participants apply the new knowledge to their business, resulting in a lender compliant loan package. Because you have to understand that there's really we'll go with 3 scenarios. One scenario is we do it the way that we do it, whereby we cover a topic and then apply the topic. And I prefer that. That's what we do. Another option would be just to say, no, just give us all the information you have about your business, whether we give them a list or not. Give us your tax returns, give us your balance sheet, give us your last 3 months bank statements. Well, I mean, that's direct and that could be effective. But the truth, I plead with you, step back. You know so much more than most people know. If you just ask a lot of entrepreneurs for their balance sheet, they don't even know what really a balance sheet is, or what should be on it, or why is it relevant. And so rather than just asking for a bunch of information that doesn't make sense to them, we can take them through this curriculum, teach them, for example, in module 3, what a balance sheet is, why it's important, what's on it, And then now let's go create yours so you can see the difference in approach. Now, of course, with the Access to Capital program, we're not taking anything away. Nothing's changing. Our discussion today is not changing anything. It's just reiterating to those of you that may not be familiar with how the curriculum, how the program is designed to operate. All participants are guaranteed a minimum of $100,000 to start or grow a business and assisted by an instructor. And again, sometimes we call that a mentor. Whomever is going to work with them, their information needs to be on here. And so if you're delegating it to us, then our information will be on here. But I know some of you are doing your own mentoring. Take Jeremy out of Austin. He doesn't use this. He teaches it himself. If you want to teach the curriculum, then that's fine. However, I would argue that if your real gift is to go out and develop client relationships, the more time you spend developing client relationships and the less time you spend implementing, the more money you'll make. But now, from an academic perspective, we want to help the participant understand what are the expected outcomes. So we list those out. We know that we expect them to receive a minimum of $100,000 to start or grow a business. And in fact, through the Access to Capital program, they're promised that. Now, you're the white label partner, so they're signing that contract with you. If you want that number to be bigger, that's fine. I know some of you are guaranteeing $250,000. That's your call. But the bottom line is this should match with whatever your promise is. We're going to help them improve their business financial literacy by going through the 4 modules with guides. We're going to create a lender compliant business plan with 36-month financial projections. We're going to help them get funding and credit under their EIN of their business with no use of personal credit. We're going to help them develop a lender compliant personal financial statement. We're going to help them create lender compliant financial statements. So here we're talking about personal. Now we're talking about on the business side, the income statement and balance sheet. Had a client consultation this morning, and frankly, he didn't really understand that there's a difference. So there's the business owner, and then there's, and there could be multiple owners, of course, but just to simplify it, there's the business owner, and then there's the business, and each have their own set of financials. Individuals have the PFS, businesses have the income statement and balance sheet. There's a lot of people that are not as smart or experienced or financially literate as you, and they'll say things that are wrong. They'll say, well, I'm a new start business, Andrea. I don't have a balance sheet. That doesn't apply to me. That's bullshit, right? You don't know what you're saying right now. Stop talking because you don't. And I'm not picking on Andrea, I was just using her as an example. She wasn't the one saying that in the role play. Her client was saying it to her. But the bottom line is, sure, you from the day you form a business, you should have a balance sheet. The client that I was working with this morning, and he's a good man, so I'm not speaking negatively of him, but I was reviewing the balance sheet with him, and every number was an even number. Because what you and I know, a balance sheet is an accurate reflection at one particular point in time, one given day. And so the chances that everything are nice, round, even numbers are remotely unlikely. So most likely when we see that, it's an approximation, it's an estimation. But anyway, we're going to help them also, as an expected outcome, address credibility issues. And so this is a really important point. So you have clients that come to you and they have some desired capital raise. Well, great. We're going to help you get from here to there. But we have to qualify. I have some clients that just get really perturbed. I have one coming up later today. He's a bit of a problem child. And he wants to sit on his porta potty and demand that he gets funding. You know, where's my money? Where's my money? Dude, you got to qualify. You don't qualify yet. We've got to work on your credibility issues. Just because someone sits there like an angry toddler and screams, where's my money? That's craziness, right? But it's okay. We work with people and we're going to improve their financial literacy. We're going to help them build a loan package, and we're going to help them become credible. And then, of course, if they need extra earned income, they can become a referral partner, what we sometimes call the opportunity fund. We have outstanding materials. Each week, they're going to be emailed, and this is set up. If we're doing the instruction, then this is an automated process. If you're doing the instruction, then you do it the way you want. But for us, we have it set up where each week they get the next round of curriculum, and we'll talk about the 4-week curriculum in just a second. And then we have weekly calls scheduled with them. So that's our model. Maybe you want to do it different. So kind of closing out here, we have a 4-week schedule. So when people start, so if they started today on Monday, October 10th, then week 1 starts today, and week 2 would start the 17th, 7 days from now. If someone started tomorrow, which would be, as of this recording, October 11th, then it starts in. So it's real time. In other words, it's not like, oh, we have to wait for the next class to start. And classes always start on the 1st of the month or the 1st of the week or what have you. That's not the case. So they get plugged in right away. So in week 1, we work on the topic called business planning. So there's a 27 mistake training video that we ask them to watch, because that's important for them to understand what are key credibility factors that impact their access to capital. They, of course, receive the participant guide. But what we're going here, we're talking about the deliverables, not just what they receive, by the way. So for each of these, they're receiving a participant guide. They're receiving an on-demand YouTube videos. That's true for each lesson. Here, we're talking about deliverables, which in other words is what they need to be doing. So they need to view the 27 mistakes training, and then we're going to build out their business plan. We provide a software, same software I used when I worked at the SBA, same software we used when I was a college professor that we use for entrepreneurial students, which is a software program called Live Plan. It's not free, but we pay for it, so it's free to the client. Week 2, we're focused on credit and business credit. We're going to help them build out, get at least $10,000 under their EIN. Another deliverable, another thing that they're going to do in week 2 is we're going to do a soft credit pull, and then also we're going to complete their personal financial statement. Now, sometimes clients are pressuring, wanting us to move faster, and so sometimes these things get compressed or get a little out of order based upon the client's expectations. I'm describing how it should work. Week 3 is financial management. Now we're working on the business's financial statements, because this was on the personal, the owner. Now we're developing financial statements for the business itself, teaching them what they are, what they mean. And again, I know this is like elementary to you. You know exactly the difference between a balance sheet and income statement, but trust me, a lot of our clients don't. So we teach them what all this means, and then we develop it for their business. That's what we're talking about with the deliverables. And then we get to banking and money, which is in week 4, and we essentially pull everything together at that time. Once we have that data set, then we're in a really good position to be able to make recommendations of the right source or sources of capital based upon their mitigating circumstances, because we know a lot about their business. So who has questions, comments, concerns on the small business certification syllabus? Is this a separate offering? No, it's embedded into the Access to Capital program. This is the structure that allows us to get them from where they're at when they first start to where they need to be. It allows us to build their financial literacy. It allows us to build out their loan package. Well, how are we building their loan package? Each week we have a topic that they learn about, and then we apply that topic to their business by putting together things like their business plan, their personal financial statement, their balance sheet, and so forth. Okay, so let's open it up for questions and comments before we wrap it up today. Again, I did send this to each of you, and I sent it to you as both an editable Word and a PDF. So if we're the one, and so if you're not, we encourage you to allow us to do the mentoring. But if you want to do the mentoring, then you need to change this up. If we're doing the mentoring, then you don't even need to send this to the client. It's good for you to know what we're doing, but you wouldn't even need to send this to the client. For instance, Bernard, who's on the line, we have a client. And so as of today, we're moving forward with that client in week 1. And so we copied Mr. Barchi on it. He's aware of, we're off and running. Live plan, we provide access to their live plan on our first weekly call. So what happens is once the client has paid you the $2,500 refundable deposit, we start building their loan package. And so then what we do is each week we have a call with them. The subject matter, there's an email that goes out each week on the topic. And during the week 1 call, we actually get them set up and start working on their business plan. So Dawood's asking about that. So we do that as part of the process. You're not burdened with this. All right, so France is asking, is this for business owners? Well, this is for people that want access to capital. In other words, they've enrolled in the Access to Capital program, France, and they're looking for capital. They're looking for a minimum of $100,000. That's our flagship program. And so what I'm attempting to do today, not to confuse any of you, this is not new, this is not different, but I want you to understand the process that's designed and how it works is that we go through a 4-week curriculum. Now, I realize some clients don't want to take 4 weeks to get this done, so we can work with them and try to accelerate it. But as a model, it's really put together to be a 4-week process. I know in some cases, I think even to the detriment of ourselves and our clients, we seek to rush and push people through, and we're going to be much more consistent going forward and following this structured and effective approach. So once the client has paid you the refundable deposit, which they don't have to pay out of pocket, they can, but they don't have to pay out of pocket. Once they've paid you the $2,500 refundable deposit, then we'll get to work. And this is what we'll do for the client, so you know what to expect the client's going to receive. Thus, at the end of the 28 days, the 4 weeks, we'll just call it a month, then we'll have the data set for the client and we'll be ready to create the funding plan and make sure that they're credible enough for that funding plan. All right, so Timothy's asking the all-important question. So what if a client comes aboard and they want funding now? They don't want to wait for 28 days. What are we going to do? Timothy asks. Well, great. So we're going to get them their first tranche of financing right away within the first 3 to 5 days. That's not changed. That's not really part of this discussion. That is the first tranche financing, which will happen before this starts, because until they've paid you the $2,500 as a white label partner, then we're not doing this yet. So the first tranche of financing will happen up front. Nothing has changed with that. I guess Timothy's point's less that than, what if they want their 100,000 or 500,000 or $1 million or whatever before 28 days? Well, we can seek to accelerate this, but we really prefer to take clients through this curriculum because we're teaching them what is needed and then we're applying it to their business. But we'll work with you and work with the client to meet everyone's expectations. This is the standard model, the standard implementation that I wanted to make sure that you're familiar with. And this is what we are going to be following more rigorously going forward, because it allows us to have better quality control. Linda asked, how much is the first tranche of financing? So before this even starts, the client has signed up with you. They signed up with you, Linda, as an Access to Capital client. You have the contract executed. You've uploaded that into your white label Dropbox. You've completed the funding proposal app. You've uploaded that into your Dropbox. So 2 documents for the client, the agreement and the app, and you've let us know, Linda, that the client is enrolled. So then we're going to get them their first tranche, their first round of financing. And that happens normally in 3 to 5 days. How much they get for their first tranche financing will vary based on their credibility. They'll get at least enough to cover the deposit. Everyone will do that. But Linda's question was much more direct than that. How much will they get with their first tranche of financing? It depends upon them. It's rarely more than 100,000 for the first tranche. Again, we're talking about when they come in, first 3 to 5 days. It's going to be somewhere no less than 2,500. Rarely is it more than 100,000. Most clients will get multiple funding offers, 4 to 7. Some could get 20, 30, 40 funding offers. There's no hard inquiries in getting them those offers. So Linda, if I didn't answer your question, let me know. All right, so who else has questions, comments, concerns on our implementation model? This is our standardized implementation model of clients that have enrolled in the access to capital, that once they have paid you the deposit, then we're going to take them through this curriculum. We have found ourselves getting a little bit lax in following this structured curriculum, which has been around for quite some time, to try to appease people. And we're just going to be more stern going forward. This is the implementation model. When a client signs, they need to understand that it's a 28-day process of getting their business loan package together. Now, they will have already had their first tranche of financing, of course, but if we need to move quicker than the 28 days, we can discuss that and work on that. But this is the standard protocol that I don't know that all of you were familiar with. Absolutely. So Sarah's asking about those in-person classes I made reference to. And yes, we can absolutely take this and do an in-person small business certification together at a church, at a library, or what have you. And instead of this being 4 weeks, it's 8 hours. We sit down and we knock it out in a day. So that is certainly an option if that's of interest to you. That's logistically more complicated, right? Because now we got to get a group of people together all at one place at one time, and you need to be there, and one of our instructors needs to be there to teach it. But that's certainly an option. Frankie brings up a good point of what do you do when you have a client that needs money right away? And so I'll give you an example. We have a client that Bruce had referred in, and the client is a farmer, and he's broke. And I'm not saying this to be mean, but he's broke. He's not liquid. And if he doesn't get a certain amount of money by a certain date, then his farm's going to go essentially into foreclosure, or at least it won't operate anymore. Well, that's horrible, right? And so in those cases, we're going to still get the client their first tranche of financing, which may be enough to cure the immediate woes. And we may need to accelerate this process instead of following the normal curriculum. And so we can do that when that's needed and go to funding even sooner. So there's always exceptions that can be made. I'm not trying to suggest otherwise, but for the best client experience, it would be following this model. Chuck's asking, and yes, so this is I think a really good outline if you're looking to develop referral relationships with CPAs or chambers or banks. Again, you'd put your information on here, not mine, but this does really describe what you and I do. You know, it's looking behind the scenes to see how is it that we help clients, because it's real easy to dismiss. Oh, getting anyone 100,000. That's a scam. That's too good to be true. Well, it's not. It's just because they're illiterate or they don't understand our model. So this is the process to go through. Sanya asked a good question. So that's right. So we did contract with a third-party company called Blue Revenue, and they have compressed this down using our curriculum into a 4-day model. And so we've talked some about that, and that's available as well. There's certainly some compromises that occur when you compress it down so quickly, and it's more of a do it on your own process. It's not including live plan, but you are right. There is a 4-day variant of this. It is typically used as a lead generator. It's often used by going out to the marketplace and using that to get clients interested enough and confident enough to want to enroll in the Access to Capital program. But for those clients that are enrolled in the Access to Capital program, this is the model that we'll use, because the grant that we applied for is based on this. And so if they're in Access to Capital, this is the curriculum, this is the model that we'll be following if we're doing the implementation. If you're doing the implementation, in other words, you're the instructor, I guess you can do it however you want. If you have a group of client or prospective clients that you just want to take through some educational curriculum to help move them along, then you're absolutely correct. Then there's a 4-day version of this that you could certainly use as a resource. Okay, so wrapping it up, hopefully it didn't confuse you. Hopefully you better understand what it is that you and I do. As technical advisors, we do 3 things. We build financial literacy, we build lender compliant loan packages, and we help clients become credible enough to get the funding that they want, that they need, that they deserve. And once the client has enrolled, they've paid you the $2,500 refundable deposit, which normally does not come out of pocket. There's no advance fee. It's based upon their first tranche of financing. They pay it out of that. Then we get started with this curriculum, the small business certification curriculum, which is defined here. If you've not gone through it, if you've not done this yourself, I think you're crazy. Forgive me for saying, you should go through it. You should go through these steps and understand how it works. You'll be able to express it to others much better if you actually go through the curriculum rather than just having heard about it or read about it. All right. Well, thanks, everyone. We'll see you back tomorrow morning. Now, we will have training Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday. Our RVPs and myself will be in San Antonio Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we'll not have training on Friday. I'll see many of you in person, but we will be back tomorrow, Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursday. See you tomorrow. Thanks. Bye.